Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show, where we explore the journey of recovery from alcohol and drug addiction. One story, one conversation, and one step at a time. I'm your host, Joe, creating a safe space for honest discussions about the challenges and triumphs of addiction and alcoholism. In each episode, we'll hear inspiring stories and uncover tools that make healing possible. Sobriety is not a one-size-fits-all journey, and you don't have to face it alone. Recovery is possible, and it's worth it. Thank you for joining the Cup of Joe Show. Now let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cup of Joe Show. I'm your host, of course, Joe, and really excited to talk to my guest today, my friend Scott C. I'll tell you a little bit about Scott. His journey in sobriety began 17 years ago, July 16th, 2007. He's an active member of the High Desert Big Book group in Lancaster, California. Say that 10 times. And is deeply rooted in the recovery community. Sobriety runs in his family as Scott is married to a wonderful sober woman, Shelby, and also has a 28-year-old son in recovery. Scott does have one cat, a beloved companion, and has experienced the heartbreak some of us also have of losing 4 dogs and another cat over the past few years. Outside of recovery, Scott has a passion for music, riding motorcycles, and all things tech. So welcome to the show, Scott.
Well, thanks, Joe. Glad
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good on this fine Saturday morning.
Well, I appreciate you being here. So tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what it was like.
Well, so I had a little bit of a different journey than a lot of people. I don't come from a nuclear kind of family, you know. There was a lot of abuse and abandonment and things like that in my family, and I grew up mostly in foster homes and group homes and things of that nature, and until I got old enough to start breaking the law. Then it was juvenile hall, and just I didn't live at home very much as a kid. Yeah. There was a few, like maybe 9 months or so that I lived with my mom, but by that time I was pretty angry and pretty messed up, and was not able to hold it together in society. So they put me back in another foster home, with stuff like that. That's kind of how I grew up, until I was about 16, and I just told everybody, to go F themselves and, go do my own thing.
Yeah.
So,
what was your own thing when you?
I just running the streets and doing what I do. I was already drinking and using by that point, and I just got tired of everybody telling me what to do, so I went and I lived on the streets for a little bit, for a couple of years actually, just doing what I had to do to get by, and getting loaded as much as I possibly could, thinking it was freedom, I was a little wrong about that, but
we learned that later, right? We learned that later. Do you have any siblings?
I have one brother who's 2 years older than me. He lives in Reno, and my sister who's 2 years younger than me, and she lives in Simi Valley, California.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm in contact with her, but not so much with my brother. We don't talk a whole bunch.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so were there? I know you said you started drinking and drugging early, living on the streets, and were there things that stick out in your mind, consequences and things like that started making you think I might have a problem or this might be an issue?
I just spoke at a meeting yesterday, a little thing that was going on over here, and this came up while I was talking. I didn't really have a lot of personal responsibility in anything that was going on in my life until I was about 20. It was everybody else's fault. It was always everybody else's fault, especially my mother. It was my fault, and if those cops had just not been there, so it's their fault,
Them pesky cops.
Yeah, not because I was breaking the law or not because I was doing anything that I shouldn't have been doing, So it took a little while to come to terms with the fact that it didn't really matter whose fault it was.
Right.
It didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I was the one who was dying. I was the one who was suffering. I was the one who continually was getting in trouble and constantly having problems. And I believe, and I have always believed, well, for a long time, and believe that, until you can find that personal responsibility in what's going on, and start doing things differently, it's going to be a rough road getting out of that hole,
Yeah. So you said something happened when you were 20. You took a little bit more responsibility. Is that, how do you mean by that?
I initially got sober when I was 20 years old.
Okay.
So I got exposed to a 12-step program when I was 20 years old. I was still living on the streets. Somebody helped me get into a recovery house, and something changed for me there. I don't know exactly what it was. I just started trying to do some things differently because I didn't realize that what I had been doing up to that point was not working.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how long did you stay sober at that point?
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I had gotten into. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you were working a program of some sort.
Of some sort.
For sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had gotten into doing some step work, and life changed for me when I got sober the first time. I started learning a lot about, that program taught me how to live pretty much. When I got here, I didn't really have a lot of life skills on any level. My life skills were run away, anger, explosive anger, and getting loaded pretty much, and
yeah.
And I learned how to live. I learned how to become an employee. I learned how to, which I was terrible at, but I still, I learned a lot. I learned how to get, my finances together and get a driver's license and do all of this stuff that I really had no idea. I mean, I came from a pretty shattered childhood, and
yeah,
never met my father, kind of thing, and had a few father figures through my life, hit and miss, throughout my life. But then I got sober, and all that changed. I learned a lot, and did my best to try to work a program, but there was something missing. Obviously, I mean, I didn't stay sober,
Right.
Yeah.
So what kind of changed, I guess, to get you to go? What was the catalyst, I guess, for you to go back out?
Well, okay, so so I started a company in my first sobriety there. I started a business, and I started making a lot of money. It was an internet business, and I had no structure really in my life, and I had a lot of cash coming in and a lot of ego to back that up, and I was going to meetings to look cool. If there was a new guy in the room, he was the last one I was going to talk to, and my job was to sit in the back of the room and judge everybody and make fun of everybody who was sharing. And I spent a long time doing that. And I brought a lot of ego and arrogance and BS like that to the table, chasing women, chasing money, just not, I mean, I kind of forgot why I was here,
Yeah.
Life got really good, financially, and like, if you looked at me, you would think that I had everything great going on, but there was no spiritual life going on, and there was no thought of others at all, so I might as well have been loaded. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I was finding no peace here either. I got asked by one of my clients to move to Miami and run his internet stuff and build up their online business. And so I did that. You know, I had a lot of resentments going on because my ex-wife had moved out of state with my son, and I really didn't know how to deal with that. Plus, you know, that abject fear that alcoholics live with on a regular basis. You know, I wasn't doing much about that. So,
Yeah.
you know, every time I had emotional upheavals in my life, I would fix on, you know, women, money, stuff, things, ego, pride, you know, and yeah, all that stuff will lead you back to a drink, man.
Yeah.
You know, I moved to Miami. Everything was fantastic for about 6 months. And then I started, you know, I stopped going to meetings because they weren't doing it the way I thought they should do it, you know. Such ego, yeah. And the job thing back there in Miami fell apart. And here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that I found is that if I'm not spiritually connected and I don't have some kind of a real foundational deal going on with God in this deal, I become crazy, and I become crazy stone cold sober, and I make excellent, beautiful, stellar decisions in my life. So I stopped going to meetings because it was much cooler and funner to hang out at the strip clubs in Miami with the guys that I work with, you know, than it would be to go and actually, you know, stick my hand out to a new guy who smells or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, you know, and so everything kind of fell apart in Miami behind some of the decisions I had made, and I got loaded. I got drunk, you know, went into a 3-day blackout immediately. Ended up, you know, finding somebody who was able to supply me with some of the good stuff that I like, you know, the smokable alcohol, and you know, and it was on and cracking, man, and I everything went down the tubes like with a quickness. So I went in within 9 months. I went from living on the beach pretty much. I was 10 feet from the water in North Miami. It was an awesome place to live. Within 9 months, I was living in a closet in Brunswick, Georgia, you know, and everything I owned was in that guy's living room. You know?
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I laugh now because I don't live like that anymore. But yeah, that was pretty bad.
That we have to lose, right? I mean, that's just part of it. We have to lose. Yeah,
I believe so. That was my story. You know, you gotta simplify things. Get it down to what the issue is. You know, the issue is I can't stop drinking. I can't stop doing drugs. I can't stop destroying my life on a regular basis. You know, and I really need help doing that. That's what I had to get to that place.
So, so you're in Georgia, and is that where? Did you get to that place in Georgia, or was it?
Not.
Had to ask.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, I burned it down in Georgia for about 9 months, and then a friend of mine from LA sent me a plane ticket and said she didn't want to see me die on the other side of the country, and so she, you know, brought me back to LA, and I went and did the rounds of the sober living houses in the San Fernando Valley and all that stuff. I was probably in every one out there for about a couple of days. They have this thing. They're called sober livings for a reason. You know, they want you to be sober when you're there. You know, and I couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it, man.
Yeah.
So I spent some time, you know, bouncing in and out of all those places and just continually doing what I was doing until I did go to county rehab up here, which was pretty fantastic. You know, I spent 90 days in there, and I was sober the whole time. But you know, I don't know what it takes. I don't know where that what it takes for certain people. I don't know, because I fell in love with AA again, or the whole recovery thing. I fell in love with that stuff while I was in that place. I just loved. I just got that energy back, and that magic came back. And then literally 10 days after I got out of there, I had beaten a court case. I'd gotten a truck. I'd gotten a job and a place to live, and I got loaded, just like that. With no forethought, actually. I was just driving around on a Sunday and ended up in ghetto part of town, and just bought some stuff and went on my way. There was no problems going on that day. It just was what it was. And I guess it just takes an extraordinary amount of pain for some of us, to get to that point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And 7 months later, after continually doing that Ferris wheel, I ended up getting arrested, and picked up a felony and a DUI, and spent a month in jail and looking at 3 years in prison. And I'm just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. Something happened. I just spent that entire time I was in jail praying. I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't care how I live. I just don't want to do this anymore. And I believe, and it's been my experience, that level of surrender is what's necessary to stay around. Some people get it, because they threw up on their satin sheets. Other people get it from, killing somebody. I'm just grateful that I finally got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend who always used to say, some people it's a dent in a Mercedes, and for other people it takes living under a bridge. And he said most of us are somewhere in between.
Correct.
So yeah. So you get out, you spent 30 days really surrendering. I mean, that sounds like that's the turning point for you.
I think, yeah, I do, because when I got out the next day, I was in meetings, and then me and the girl that I was with, we started cleaning up the house and everything, and cleaning up the room that we were staying in, and we found a lot of stuff. I found dope and pipes and all this other crap, and alcohol was in, and all this stuff, and we just dumped it. We just dumped it all and went to a meeting. And I never do that, Joe. You don't dump dope. Are you kidding me? Yeah. What do you do? That's ridiculous, right? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
It's always after too, Scott.
Right.
When we're trying to get sober, then
Yeah. Where was this stuff a week ago? Right. Yeah.
I think that's God looking out for us. That's what I think. But so what do you think? I know when you went to a meeting, what was kind of the things that helped you get your feet under you?
Well, for the first few months, I went to a different program because I thought I was just an addict. I just thought that maybe I was a little too young to be alcoholic. Maybe I was a little too young to really have those issues. And it was just, everybody else's fault as to why my life was so screwed up. And, thanks a lot, Mom. Appreciate that. And so I went to this other program thinking maybe I'd find an answer there. I didn't know at the core of my being, though, that the way I thought about stuff and the way that I was approaching life was completely skewed and was going to screw me. I knew that,
Yeah.
So I kind of had this willingness to just look, to search for something. And so I went to this other program, but what I found, at least in my location where I'm at, my demographic up here, when I had about 90 days sober, I was the old timer in the room, and it just really, really kind of, I needed to find something else with a little bit more meat to it, and
yeah.
So I started looking around for good meetings, and I found a couple, One was this men's stag that I would go to every Wednesday night, and it was basically the oldest meeting up here in the Antelope Valley, and I met some really great people, one of those being Mr. David Gibbs, and and I can say his last name. He's gone now. So, but yeah, I met him, and he was the first person that I ever heard that I truly believed that he had a connection with God, and like a real one, like for real. He wasn't pretending, and he would talk about these crazy things that were going on in his life, but he would always like turn it around and explain how the solution is there. And I don't know really how to explain it. It was pretty fantastic, and I just believed what he had to say. And he was one of the most spiritual men that I've ever met. And not because he pontificated or anything like that. He was never like that. He was just a really humble guy, and he's a plumber. And he just had this peace about him, and I don't know. I mean, you knew Dave, so the smile. He'd have that little grin, that shit-eating grin that he had all the time. And it's just like, I just love this guy. And I asked him to sponsor me, and he sponsored me for 16 years.
Wow.
Last year, yeah.
So Dave was one of those people. I remember the first time I met him when he moved in Tennessee, and just the things that would come out of his mouth, you just knew right away, like, man, this guy is like, I always told people I was intimidated by Dave because he was, and he wasn't intimidating. That was not on Dave. That was my own personal crap, for the record. But he was just, you're right. He had this aura of peace. And I was like, my goodness, man, if I stand next to him, maybe I'll get some of that,
I just wanted a fraction of what that was, because I never experienced that before. Even in my 15 years of being sober, I mean, I had moments of joy and moments of happiness and things like that. But 90% of the time, that was wrapped around how much money I made at that point. If I landed a good job, then I was happy. Or whatever. Somebody finally paid the balance on their deal. I was happy, what I thought was happy, what I thought happiness was. And I just watched him walk around with this just like, it don't really matter what's going on. I have a purpose, and his purpose was always being of service to other people. Always.
Yeah.
And I watched through a few different experiences with him, because I used to have dinner with him every Wednesday night before our stag at the house, and Marion would cook for us. And it was awesome, and all that stuff. We'd go and hang out on the weekends. We'd go do all this stuff, and I'm just like, I would watch him be of service to people and watch his mood change when he did it. And he was a great example. Putting the tools that we have into play and getting the results from it, It's just I've never had a relationship like that in my life, and that was just just changed everything about my life and the direction of my life.
Yeah,
especially in recovery.
So how? You said you had some examples of things, like, how did you put that type of service, attitude, or however you want to call it, into your life?
Well, it's taken a while. I didn't sponsor for a long time because sponsoring scared me, which it does for a lot of us. It's a lot of responsibility, and I'd rather sit over here and be selfish and do my thing, and I'd rather play Xbox than have to listen to somebody whine about their relationship problems again. You know what I mean?
Stop describing me, Scott.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't talk about me, Joe.
Oh, sorry.
And over the last couple of years, I think I got kind of complacent, and I just, things have been really good for about 6 years for me. Just really good. Just a lot of growth, in my program, a lot of growth in my life. I married the love of my life, my best friend, and we've had a lot of loss with our dogs. I had cancer about 4 years ago. I almost died 2 years ago from my gallbladder. Things like that. The whole getting old thing is just so much fun. I mean, it was really bad. I got septic. I was in the hospital for 6 days, and brutal stuff. So I think with all of that stuff going on, I started turning more towards what does God want me to be doing right now? Where does He want me to be? And as a result, I showed up to a meeting about a year and a half ago that I go to on a regular basis. I think having a committed home group and a committed place where people know you is vital. I showed up to this meeting, and there was Johnny. Right, Johnny is the first deer in the headlights. Like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Obviously new, dressed to the T in brand name stuff as, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? And that whole thing. I'm driving a BMW, but just terrified. You could see it in his eyes, right? Just terrified. Like, I don't have the slightest idea what I'm doing with my life, but I'm gonna make you think I do. And it was awesome to see, because I'm like, I know that guy. That's me. Yeah. So I went over and introduced myself, and I've been sponsoring that guy for a year and a half, and it's been an amazing thing to watch Johnny grow, and to watch me personally grow from just the act of getting out of myself.
Yeah.
That's the solution, right? Like our deal is that if selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of my problem, which means all my problems stem from that, right? So if that's the root of my problem, the answer is obviously to be selfless. And I suck at it, Joe. To be honest with you, I suck at it.
Me too.
But I'm better today than I've ever been, and God doesn't hold that over me,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. How do you how did you come back to God? I guess is like, it was, I know in jail you were, you did this prayer. I say prayer meditation. I'm sure it was, some of that. And then, but when you just knew, like, man, God, there is a God, and He's with me. Was there a moment you felt that, or?
I've felt that off and on at different experiences, at different times in my life. A couple of years ago, my son was going through his own troubles, and me and my wife flew out to Denver and did an intervention on him, and had him put into a rehab, which he went voluntarily because he knew he was in trouble, and he's been sober for 2.5 years, and so after I saw him, there was a moment where I saw him and he kind of took stock of what was going on in his life, and I saw him accept that he needed some help. I saw God in that. A lot of different little things. Through sobriety. It was probably, honestly, some people it takes a long time. It's been the last 5 years. I mean, I'm 17 years sober, so 5 years. I see. The thing is, my first 11 years in sobriety, I was in a bad relationship with that girl that I was telling you about, that that I got sober with. We actually got arrested together and went to jail in the same cop car, and it was just a thing. I met her in rehab. And so anyone who's listening, let me just tell you, rehab romance is not a good idea. If I don't know who I am, how am I supposed to bring something to the table in a relationship, right? And that's the thing. I found the best part of my relationship is what I bring to it, not what I can get out of it. Anyway, I was stuck with her for 11 years because I couldn't leave. I could not. I could not. I didn't have enough faith in God or anything. I couldn't. I couldn't muster the faith to go. This is really bad for me, and I need to go.
Yeah.
And whatever you got in store for me, God, is going to be better than this. I couldn't come up with that. Takes a while for some of us. I don't know, but it stopped when I was 11. She was 11 years sober, and as soon as she left, she got drunk. Like 3 weeks after she left,
Yeah.
she was just looking for a reason to go, and I was like, thank God, thank you God for doing that, because I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't muster the strength myself, But then I had to do an inventory on it and do the work with my sponsor and all that other stuff to kind of figure out what that was all about and why and all that shit. And as soon as I did all that work and I got kind of comfortable with myself, I met Shelby. Right?
Yeah.
So
these are the is it odd or is it God moments?
Exactly.
So
she's completely different than my ex, and she's got a hell of a program. She's coming up on 10 years sober. She's got a ton of sponsees, and she works a better program than I do most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When you were talking about that other relationship, it reminded me one of the things that sticks out to me about David. He told me I was really struggling with my ex, and I had a lot of anger and resentment, and I remember him telling me, Joe, there are some people who are so toxic for us, we have to put them in quarantine and love them from a distance. And I was like, you can do that? That's an option, and it just was, teary-eyed just thinking about that, how powerful that was for me. And in some ways life-changing, to be able to, they just had a way of making all of us, many of us, I know, look at things differently, like you had said earlier. But when you were talking, it kind of clicked, like, man, that was one of the first things I remember with David that really stuck. So, and
I'm really grateful for the time I had with him, really grateful, because that was a phenomenal relationship.
Yeah. So what's your day-to-day like now, Scott? Like what's like your routine on a typical day for Scott, as far as sobriety goes?
Well, I have a couple committed meetings that I do every single week. I talk to my sponsee every day, because I have him calling me every day, because he's a little scattered sometimes. So I have him trying to keep him focused, and he's doing great. It's pretty awesome to watch. And my day-to-day thing is that over the last couple of years, my career has really taken off, and I'm doing, I have a job that's, I work at an Air Force base, and, I do some important stuff for some important people, and it's pretty awesome, to be a part of that. It's, they trust me, I trust them, and we get the job done, and how does that happen, right? I used to live in a carport storage area, man. I used to step up a Cadillac to get up into my house every day, and it's just crazy. I lived on the roof of one of the Alano clubs down in Reseda down here, man, and how does that happen, right?
Yeah.
So I try to stay willing to give to my home group. I stay willing to be of service to whoever on a regular basis. And I think since that shifted in my head and became more about you than it was about me, my life has gotten great, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy. I'm really, really, like, are there things that I want to be different? Yeah. I'm really kind of tired of not being a millionaire, I'm really kind of tired of, like, Jack not sending me a check for, $70,000 and just saying thank you, So, that's when that doesn't happen,
Yeah.
dude, I'm not, I'm not out, committing random acts of terrorism on everybody in my life that matters because of it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, my day-to-day stuff is, I get up and I do my prayers and I do my connection with God. I pray in bed before I get out of bed because I know if I don't, my head will take me hostage and it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I go about doing what I got to do for the day. Take care of my wife, make sure she's good. And then if it's one of the days that I do the meetings and stuff, I head over to the meeting after work, try to be of service there, try to share if I can, and head home and pet my cat and hang out with my wife. And it's not a bad life, man.
Yeah. Keep it simple, right?
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun out there, so much so that I'm here. So I think it's good that I'm I can stand with a little bit of simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of your I know we're supposed to stay in the moment, but we always, I think it's good to think too, what are some of your goals for the future, and what do you?
Well, my wife and I just bought our first house last year, and this house that you see here, this is mine now.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
it's a big deal.
It is a big deal, man. They say there are no big deals around here, but there are. Yeah. That's phenomenal, right? Like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
So we want to do some work on this place and maybe turn it into a rental and buy something else. That's something we want, it's a small house. I've been living here for a long time, and the guy who was the landlord decided he wanted to sell all of his property. So I just bought it, and happened to be, it's all, this kind of stuff is all God, right? I mean, this all happened. I had the money at the time, right? I was able to get the loan at a rate that we can deal with at the time, it all came together within a month, man, and that's kind of how it's been. As far as goals, I obviously keep moving up in my career, and all that. I'd like to be sponsoring some more guys, and definitely would like to speak more. I really love speaking at meetings.
Yeah,
I think it's a very effective way to carry a message of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I really like it. A lot of it has to do with my ego too. I have a pretty big ego, and I just love being the center of attention. So when I speak, which is probably why God will never make me a circuit speaker, right? Ever.
Yeah.
He
might.
You never know, but
It could be.
I'm not sure I want to, though. I know a number of circuit speakers, and man, the life that they have is pretty harsh. They're always on the go. It costs them a lot of money to do that, and all that stuff. But I just want to be of service. I want to help people,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So what suggestions would you have if somebody was listening is out there struggling? What suggestions would you have for them?
My suggestion would be is that if you're done, and that's the big if, right? Like if you're done, if you're at a place where you are willing to do whatever is asked of you, then go find somebody in a meeting that seems to be experiencing the results of doing this stuff, the results that they talk about, the peace and the happiness and the success in their life and all of that stuff. If they are experiencing that, you'll see it. You'll see by looking at the people in the rooms who is full of shit and who isn't. You'll know that, just by looking at them. Go up and ask them to sponsor you. Go up and ask them, and then here's the kicker, right? This is the important part. Do what they tell you to do. I know you're probably not going to. I didn't, but I would say that's the key. And there isn't much. Here's the thing: if somebody's ready to get sober, you can tell them anything, and they'll stay sober. If they're not ready to get sober, you can't tell them a thing. It doesn't matter. They will be here, and we always remain in a position to be helpful. We always remain open and ready, willing to be of service. But the truth is that if somebody has not gotten to a point of surrender, they won't stay here, and they'll come up with every reason in the world why it's our fault.
Yeah,
I did that. I did that, of course. So, but if somebody's really ready and really willing, jump in and sit all the way down. Do what we ask you to do. Get out of yourself. Find ways to be of service, and you're going to be amazed at how your life will change.
Yeah. Like yours has.
Huh?
Like yours has.
Absolutely.
And mine.
So different, man. So
good. That's really cool. Well, you were going to say something? I'm sorry.
No, I was coughing. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. I know, and I appreciate you pushing through this. Scott has been sick recently, and but he braved it because he's a brave man. He's a good guy. And so before you go, Scott, you've got to do my rapid fire questions.
Okay.
And Scott's a tech guy, so I'm hoping he'll come up with my sound effects someday that I could use. But in the meantime, it's just me doing this. Rapid fire.
I can get you something. I'll find you something.
I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So, what is your favorite recovery slogan?
Wow. Trust God, clean house, help others.
What is your least favorite recovery slogan?
Think. That's never helped anybody.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I understand what that is, but that's never really helped anybody.
What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
I'm sorry, you cut out there, Joe.
Oh. What do you think is your sobriety superpower?
Oh, God, I have no idea how to answer that. Truthfully, I have no idea.
I think you said it's God.
Well, yeah, but that's not. Yeah. No, you're right. My connection, as feeble as it is, most of the time, that would be it. Yeah.
If you could say one thing to your former self, what would it be?
Buy Bitcoin.
Okay.
Right?
I hear you. When
it was $10 a coin. Yeah. Man.
What song do you play to lift your spirits when you need a boost?
Man, there's a lot of them. Right now, I'm stuck on Lindsey Buckingham when he played at the Bass Performance Center. This acoustic set that he did. So Holiday Road is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Pretty great song. It's a stupid little thing, but it's such a great song. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything stupid about it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
If you could grant yourself one wish to help with your recovery, what would it be?
I wish that my ego didn't pop up as much as it does. Yeah.
What step do you love the most?
12 step.
What step do you love the least?
The first step. It hurts getting there.
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
That'd be it. That'd be it.
I appreciate you, Scott. Let me remind everybody that a new episode is released every Thursday at noon. You can listen to the show in your favorite podcast apps Amazon Audio, Apple, Podbean, Spotify, and others. Just search for The Cup of Joe Show. Don't forget the "the." Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Scott, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. I really appreciate you, brother.
No problem, Joe. This has been fun, man. I appreciate you asking me. Thank you so much.
All right.
It's just a laid-back vibe, baby.
We hope you enjoyed today's experience, strength, and hope. We are so grateful you decided to join us. Please share this episode with someone who might need it. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, no matter where you are in your recovery journey, you are not alone. Reach up and reach out to someone. Please do not suffer in silence. Until next time, let's take it 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day at a time. Thanks for listening to The Cup of Joe Show.